Your mic's off, Walter. How you doing, brother?
I knew that, man. I just need a minute. What's up,
How you
man?
feeling? Oh, man, it's the same old song and dance. Grateful. Happy to be here. How about
Happy
yourself?
to be here.
Yes.
Just got a little headache. I'll chug some of this water. That's why I was like, I just need to know what happened there.
What you
What's
got a headache
going on?
for, man? Oh, man, it's the same old stuff. I was watching your interviews and your links and stuff. I think I love your style, man. I could ask you a million foolish questions, and, have fun listening to you field them. Please elaborate any way you wish at any time, because this is about what you want. This is about what Walter's talking about. And I'll start it out with something as simple as you want to talk about the story of Walter, the story of the character that is the gentleman in my screen.
Well, where would you like to start?
Well, how about diapers?
Well, actually, let me take one of these out. How's that? Does that sound all right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, yeah. I think for some reason I like one in at a time. The story. Well, I think just in terms of spirituality, if that's maybe a good place to start. It's like how I got. Well, you and I usually can chat for a long time, so might as well start way back then.
Sure.
It's probably like getting involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, because the 12 steps, the big book.
Yeah.
Sought through prayer and meditation and all that, So from 18 till about 32-ish, I don't know, I was an active member of AA and very deep into it. I was like what they call a big book thumper.
Yeah.
So I basically stuck with the directions that are in there in the big book. And it was like 10, 11, and 12. Continue to take personal inventory, sought through prayer and meditation, and carried the message. And not only that, but practice these principles in all our affairs. And it says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, so they were pointing to something there that was an inner resource. Excuse me. So, and it also encourages, it says, basically encourages people to look to spiritual outlets for to further the search, I guess. In other words, I didn't believe that book to be the be all and end all. So I started looking further,
Beyond AA.
Well, beyond AA,
So isn't it a higher power? Don't they say it's a higher power? They don't necessarily say God, But they say
Yeah,
something
and by
about
the
a
way, I
doer.
haven't even picked up a big book in a decade, but um, I mean, I feel like it was a part of this apparent story. And you asked me about my story, and I don't think, I think once I sort of tell it, you'll see I would never have ended up with so-called non-duality if it wasn't for AA, you know, because
Yeah.
I never thought to look outside myself per se, myself being this body mind organism with, you know, with a story that I believe to be true. And I believe I had a lot of beliefs, you know. But to answer your question, um, you know, like it says, made a decision to turn my will and life over to Derek God as I understood him. So what that means is, to the best of my ability, I would try to align my will with what I perceived God's will to be. And I was trying to do my best to sort of live this lifestyle, you know. Yeah, is that it? I don't know. I'm sorry. I feel like you asked me something there and I spaced out.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
I
So
might
yeah,
not,
you
like you said, we're both a little maybe out of it, but that might be for the best. You might get the best out of me.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Being a little spacey.
Yeah. We'll fall.
All right.
We'll forgive the expression, but maybe we'll fall backwards into money.
Yes,
Fall drunk backwards
but
into money.
empowering ourselves. I mean, if you think you're this limited, you know, like I said, mind and brain and body in this contracted form, you know, interacting with other selves, individual selves, having this real life, you know, and all this, then yes, it's good to expand that view a little bit and say, all right, there's a power greater than myself, you know, there's something more powerful than my will, my, you know, small view of the way things work.
Yeah.
And so it starts to get more expansive
Yeah.
in that program. And you know, there's a lot. I'm not going to go into the whole AA thing, but you know, you see how your problems were of your own making, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, a lot of interesting stuff that I
Yeah,
needed.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that I didn't know you were in the AA program. It's the first time you've ever mentioned it.
Well, probably because most of the time I see you, I'm drinking or something.
The cat's out of the bag. Oh no,
No,
I've
but the
dropped.
truth is, I got, like I said, from 18. So prior to 18, you know, let's say from 13 to 18, you
Yeah.
know, that was a bit of that was probably a lot of work. Put it that way, you know. And I was not making it easy on my parents, but I turned that around and whatever. But turns out, after that many years of sobriety, I decided I'd just give it a try. You know,
Yeah.
this is not advice, by the way. I'm
Well,
just
no, I
being
mean,
honest.
you know, I don't
I'm
know
just
you. That
being
might,
honest about my own experience. You know,
so 18 to
that
32.
yeah, that's all I have is
That's
my
14 years you were in that program.
yeah. Well, not just in the program, but actually continuous, uninterrupted
Like you
sobriety.
work, I believe they call it working the program. You worked the
Yeah,
program.
yeah. Well, I was doing the number.
So
well, anyway, where the hell were we?
well, you were talking about how non-duality kind of appeared after a succession of events, one of which being AA,
right?
where
So
you had.
That's how I ended up talking to Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd.
So yeah, and he wouldn't mind me saying that. He was a known person.
Yeah. That was the link that you shared to me yesterday.
Yeah, and if you listen to his stuff,
what's the
he'll
fellow's name?
mention he was he was involved in the program for a bit too. So
okay. I found it. I found it amazing. I loved his style, his straightforward, direct, demeanor. I thought he was great.
Yeah, so I had never heard anything like that before. So I'll fast forward. You can move this thing along.
So tell me what that guy's whole name is. The whole name and
Floyd
that
Henderson.
Floyd Henderson.
Yeah. So so that's how I ended up I guess somehow calling him on the phone. So we had a friendship. Well, he was more of a mentor, I'd say, or a spiritual advisor, is what I was looking for. Although he would never refer to himself as that. There's nothing spiritual about any of this, but I didn't know that at the time. I mean, I'm just thinking kind of chronologically here, so. Yeah, so he started. He told me about I Am That, told me to get the book I Am That. And he just went deep with that kind of a teaching, and it just blew my mind. You're not your body.
Yeah.
You're not your mind.
Yeah.
You're not your job. I thought I was a chef. I thought I was my identity,
Yeah, you are what you do, right?
Yeah. And I think this is about a shift in identity,
Yes.
I think it's about, I mean, it's not about anything, but if I'm speaking about non-duality and it's just like who you take yourself to be or what you take yourself to be, and I just see it as wow, man, there's just so many ways to express it, and so many words, so many choices. It's like condensed emptiness somehow. That's a good one. It's like somehow it's all nothing, all nothingness.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we just fast forwarded down to the end of it.
Well,
that's the end of the story. Nothingness. If you wanted my story.
Well, the like you're saying, the shift of identity. I was thinking in terms of it's almost like the shift, and it's not a shift or it's negation. That's how it's so difficult to talk about, because it's not even about the shift, right? I think it's about there not even being a shift or a negation of a shift. Literally, it is beyond this explanation, and there really are no words. It's so hard.
Well, it depends what you're asking. I mean, if you want a story, then it's about a shift.
Yeah,
You know, that's what the story is. It's a story of, well, once upon a time in a land far away, this character in the story I'm telling, thought he was Walter, the character, the appearance, and thought all this was real. And took himself really seriously. And, you know,
Yeah.
and everyone else. So the shift in identity is an apparent shift, and it's a part of the story. But just like any other story, just like I tied my shoes this morning, or I had some coffee. It's all just stories. I mean, there's essentially no action. There's no event. There's no, I was trying to recall. Okay, so I started and met Floyd, blah, 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 and then walked all the way through. But it's all. I mean, that's it. It's just the story, and there's no cause and effect. No cause and effect. I was listening to a little bit of your chat with Rajiv, and that was nice to see.
He was beautiful right out the get go.
I'm so glad he's open to talking about this. I didn't. He was so quiet in the meetings. I didn't know that he would come out and just.
He came out like a champ, right?
Yeah.
Like
so
right away,
great.
I was stymied. It's like, okay, I mean, we could have just stopped the meeting. It was just about telling stories, like you're saying. It truly is. How about that, Walter? Do you have an awakening story? I think I heard something in the meeting, but I don't think I mean, do you care to talk about that shift?
Sure. I more or less it was. I just remember I was sitting in a coffee shop. I remember the ruminating, like a lot, like just thinking about the same thing over and over again, resentments, and having my coffee, and all of a sudden, man, I don't know, like it was just like there was a clear seeing, clear seeing of everything that was apparently happening, including me sitting there with the resentment and everybody else sitting there and whatever they were doing. But it was clear that nobody was doing anything, that it was just all appearing. And it just, everything that I had heard up to that point somehow just all made sense finally. It doesn't make any sense, but it's like you somehow being aware of your own absence, or you're not aware, but there's somehow a seeing of your own absence, or not that your own absence, but the fact that it was always this way. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, I knew, like you were saying earlier, it wasn't like I went from, unawake to awake. I saw that there was no one ever to be in either one of those states. You know, that it was always just this. I know that sounds cliche, but you know, sometimes I think some of these cliche sayings are that way for a reason, because you know, they're great pointers.
Well, they call them the classics for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I was just listening to Alan Watts before I came on. It came on after one of your shorts, one of your little shorts, which are brilliant, by the way. I love them. And
Well,
so
I
I was
love
just
that
kind of
Alan
going.
Watts comes on after me.
Yes, yeah. So it's going through your little shorts, and then Alan Watts comes on, and he starts riffing, and you know, we're talking, you know, early '60s, late '50s. You know, some of his earlier stuff. Yeah, and it wasn't even, he hadn't even got into his hippie phase yet, and you know, the long hair deal, and he was riffing stuff that we say all the time. You know, I mean, he was, you know, he was saying exactly the same things that we say. Although I would
Well,
like
he'd
to have
say
his
like you can't.
eloquence.
I'm sorry, you like his
I would love
eloquence?
to have his elocution and eloquence.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
his. But no, he's yeah, he's right there with us, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, he would say, you know, like a lot of great stuff. But I was thinking about that line, you can't bite your own teeth, you know.
Yes.
And it's like, how can all there is know all there is? I don't, it's like,
Yeah.
how can this, when it's all there is, there's no perspective to see everything objectively, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What did he say? Something about the pupil looking at itself, or the eye looking at itself.
Yeah, the eye looking at itself.
The tongue
Like,
tasting itself.
if that singular eye, you know, it's like that. What's looking is what you're looking for. It is the what's looking, but it's the only what's looking. You know,
Yeah.
like the same emptiness. Looking through those eyes is looking through these eyes.
Yeah.
You know, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
no separation. There's no independent existence. There's no, you know, another thing is like, it's all made of the same stuff, you know? These appearances, if you want to say, are made out of nothingness, no thingness, consciousness, some people like. So Howard, Walter, the phone, the table, it's all consciousness, or it's all no thingness appearing to be separate things.
Yeah.
There's no separate things.
Like the question of right and wrong. They're not different. They're just righting and wronging. It's just righting and wronging, righting and wronging.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong. There's no. How could there be? I mean, there's no. It's just thought is nothing appearing as thought, and thought creates right and wrong. You know, I remember that Ramana Maharshi quote, go back from where you came, you know? So you can go, you know, you can just go wind it back, you know?
Well, along that line, what would you say about Maharshi, and like, is there a self?
No, there's no self. There's no higher self. There's no lower self. It's, to me, the essence of what we talk about non-duality is the fact that there is one nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not two.
Mm-hmm.
And, words are never the thing. It's not the finger. But you can't even see the moon. It's not even the moon. It's something undescribable. So, but that's all there is. That's all there is. So, what's a self? What's that? There's no, if it's all an illusion, then how's there a higher or lower illusion, or a better or worse illusion, or a right or wrong illusion?
Mm-hmm. What is real in order to be eluded? What could be known to be an illusion? Do you know what duality is? What is duality? What would you say duality is? Yeah. What is the two of us
Well, I
having
think
a conversation?
duality is just the story. I think it's the but there is, there is no duality. Duality is the illusion. Duality is the appearance. The appearance is separate things, but the duality is the non-duality. It's the non-duality appearing as duality. So it's always the not two.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no. Okay, go ahead. You got some
No, I'm
questions
sorry.
there, I
Please
see.
go ahead. No,
No,
I
go
didn't mean to
ahead.
interrupt
No, no, go.
you. No, so there's no
I
self.
love you, Howard. I just like to bust your chops sometimes.
Right back at you, man. Well, for example, there is no self, and duality is the appearance. What would you say thought is? Can you give me an analogy, or can you tell me, how do thoughts appear to you?
How do they appear?
Yes. Do they appear coming from a central place? Do they appear cascading from the sky? Do they wrap around like a cloud? How does a thought appear to you? Does it feel like it's coming from a core, or does it just kind of show up like any other object a self might observe?
Well, for me, they seem to just appear from nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they're not my thoughts. I think I shared that video. My friend was like, "How could I have a fucking thought?" They're not like, it's cool to think about, and that thought is not mine. These words are not mine. Where are these words coming from?
I don't know.
I don't even know how this works.
I don't even know if it works in a traditional sense of a mechanism. As you said, there's no cause and effect. So to even think of it as an effect of something that happened prior to is incorrect from that perspective. It truly is impossible to it's impossible to talk about in any kind of accurate or direct sense. Mm-hmm. Once you lose that foundation of a source or cause and effect, a cause for what appears to be this effect, then what is a word? What is a thought? What are things? What is the appearance of duality and non-duality? It truly becomes absolutely unspeakable. I mean, there's no words for it. You know, it appears to me.
Yeah.
And what I was, let me see here. So you keep you keep answering questions before I get to them on my list, man. You're throwing off, my roll, man.
Sorry, man. Go ahead. Let's go. Let's do this.
I ask you a question and then you answer it. You answer 3 of the questions I'm about to answer in one question. So, which is beautiful. I just have to, well, can you give me some words on time and space? How does existence, as it appears in time and space, how does that, you know, can you give me a little bit about the duality of how time and space appears to exist, but doesn't?
Well, I think time and space.
Take your time, man. I mean, because this is a beautiful question.
With the I am, you know, with the appearance of the I am comes time and space. It comes with the story, you know. So I am Walter. I live in time. I live in, you know, a world where it's almost 7 o'clock. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's what it, you mean, space, like there's a body in space and there's space and there's, this is solid and this is space.
Well, how about this? How about this?
It's a part of the appearance. Time and space is a part of the appearance, you know?
Right. Well, how about this? Let's talk about, if I may, because I just thought of this. As it is, Walter appears in time and space. You have this story of a memory, the Enlightenment story, the history that got you to this moment. Well, the odd thing about that is that that's the story of the totality of existence expressing itself as the two of us here in this moment. Well, along that line of critique, then wouldn't that mean that simultaneously Walter is the totality of existence, being expressed as alone, being expressed as you know, in an unknowable state? But the odd thing about it is, it's not Walter as a self experiencing time and space. It appears as if, you know, the story of Walter occurring is the totality in this moment of expression. I mean, isn't that odd, that paradox, that there's no self, but yet the totality of existence is expressing a Walter in this moment? I mean, so there is not a self in the traditional self sense of a doer, but there's the expression of the character of Walter in the totality of existence. I mean, isn't that fascinating? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think about it, if there's no self, okay, that's fine. Okay, I have no source, so the self as I appear does not exist. Like, I don't, you know, I didn't evolve. I don't have a source for my thought. You know, all the conditions of man, X, Y, and Z, all of that kind of stuff, all of those questions that the self seems to perpetuate, all of that is the story of a birth, a life, and a death of unknowability. Nothing can be known before birth. What life is, can you tell me what life is? We can't know what life is. We can't know what existence is itself. So to even know death, to know a future at all, is completely ridiculous. It's impossible. So what I'm saying is, in this entire realm of unknowability, here lies the story of Walter and Howard having a conversation. You know what I mean? I mean, isn't that paradoxical in that you lose yourself as the representation of what the character is portraying, but the character himself, the Walter character, is being expressed as the totality of existence, and as an expression of duality, but in a non-dual sense. It's completely paradoxical. It just came to me as you were talking about it.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's even really happening though.
Right.
I mean, even to say that I'm an expression and all this, yeah, I mean, we're just birds chirping in trees. I don't think I'm saying anything profound. Like, I don't know. I just, this thing is apparently happening. It's playing out, and somehow I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there is, like Maharaj, you talk about beingness, I think a lot of traditions do. Isness, thisness, thusness, suchness,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like isness, and that's the consciousness. The seeming existence. That I think that's beautiful. And there's the love to being, the love of being, not my love to be, but just the love of being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This
love expressing being, almost, kind of.
Yeah, there seems to be a gratitude for existence, but it's the nothingness. Oh man, it's beautiful. Like grateful for its own apparent creation of existence, or the appearance of existence.
Mm-hmm.
No, but this feels, it feels like there's a gratitude there, just for being, just for witnessing all, being being a part of all that is apparently happening.
Yeah.
I'm happy for this little story, as long as it might go on.
Yeah.
But there's a love, but there's also a love in not being identified with it in some way. I don't know what that means,
It's kind of like it seems like to me that just this feels like at times like I'm literally just a little breeze in the midst of dissipating, and but happily so. I mean, like as I'm already gone and just dispersed into the greater environment about me, just dissipating, I am happy for this moment, for this little itty bitty spritz of illusion, however, meaningless and reasonless, and however it is, right here, right now, is the totality, and no matter what, it's absolutely mind bending. It is impossible to describe, and even if it is, fleeting, beyond the traditional sense of a dualistic appearance, if it, just me struggling here now, trying to say these words, it's just amazing to me. Amazing. I woke up.
Not is.
Yeah, I mean, I woke up this morning, or I didn't sleep last night, and I started talking Rajiv. I started talking to Rajiv, and the sun was coming up, and it was just such a beautiful, just such a beautiful thing, to watch the sun come up. Talking to a buddy, and even if that's the totality of whatever of if that's all I got, which is not even, however you want to say it, forgive my drunken, loose language, but even if that is all there is, isn't that amazing? For example, well, you already asked. You never did that. Yeah, well, you did. I was going to ask you if there's a source.
I did. A source?
Yeah.
No. Well, the way I look at it, and this might, I mean, I don't mean to like a source. It's just a word, source. I don't know what it means. A source, a cause, a thing from which everything emanates, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's no everything that's emanating. There's nothing separate. If there is a source, it's all that is. So what can, you know what I mean? It's like, it's an appearance. Yeah, is it coming from the source? I don't know, but all there is source. So there's no, there's no source for Walter. Walter is the source,
What do you mean by that?
I'm just, I keep going back to not to, I mean, where is there a separate thing called Walter and a separate thing called source?
I don't know. I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying. I'm saying if it's let's say the one appearing as the many. Oh, we'll both smoke. There we go. I'll get my little pen here. Okay, well,
but if there's no source to Walter, can Walter be a source is Walter a source for anything?
Well, okay, it's just that word is meaningless. Let's just say that.
Okay.
But you could say I don't know, I'm the source for this brain sort of projects these stories. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's a source.
Seems like a projector.
It's a source. Yeah, it's the source. It's like from my my Course in Miracles, I think, says projection creates perception. So you project out and you perceive it, and it's sort of this, this is my world that I'm living in. So you create that's another thing, but that's like, basically you create your own
ACIM. Yes. The difficulty there with ACIM with me is that sensation makes it, it's almost like a receiver then a projector rather than a projector and a receiver, and it's both. It's happening simultaneously. I've never. What do you think of ACIM? You know what I mean? Because I get a lot of people that try to get me to read it, and I've tried to read it several times. What do you think of it?
Well, I think in many ways, it's brilliant. I think, those beginning lessons, especially, you can see what they're pointing to, that's all an illusion, and the lesson, I give everything all the meaning it has, to me was very powerful. And that's obvious. It's back to the stories that,
Yes.
So I think those lessons are great. What can I say? The world is an illusion. It talks about, level confusion and things like this, which, in other words, I don't run into traffic.
Yes.
Because I think I'm an illusion. All right. I think that the car is condensed emptiness, and you're not going to hurt me. I mean,
yeah.
Or something weird. I don't know. That would.
Albert Einstein said, the world, time and space is an illusion, but it's a persistent one.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So
I don't know if that answers your question, but if you can do it cafeteria style. That's what I say.
okay.
You take what you like and leave the rest.
What is suffering? How about this? It's like, Max from
Magic Max.
Yeah, Magic Max.
Yeah, I liked your interview with him too.
Yeah, we're having another one next week.
I watch all your stuff,
awesome.
Howard. I'm a big fan.
Well, yeah, he was gracious enough to give me another interview. We're going to follow up on that, and I'm interested to see what he's going to say about this. But he's adamant in saying that there is no suffering. And now,
ask me all his questions.
I haven't got to his questions.
I
haven't written them down yet.
Ask me other people's questions. That'd be great.
How do you hypnotize people?
We're already hypnotized.
Yeah, right. Well, he says there is no
divine
suffering.
Hypnosis, Howard. Have you ever heard that?
No. What is divine hypnosis?
It's that we're hypnotized into thinking we're in a time and space, in a body, with a brain and free will.
What would be hypnotized? That's the beauty of that. It's like if we're not a body and a brain, then what is being hypnotized?
Yeah. Well, you can break down any of these analogies, but that's all they are, is pointers, really.
Right.
But pointers aren't going to hold up. You know what I mean? To scrutiny like that, because they're just suggesting something.
Yeah.
They're suggesting something that really can't be put into words. So all we can do is kind of, like I say, point to it. So it's a pointer. Don't worship the finger. The word is not the thing. You can't get wet by the word water. The map is not the territory.
Removing a thorn with a thorn.
All right, what was the question? Sorry.
Well, some of these are redundant, and let me just ask you this.
I'm having fun, by the way. This is good.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just keep them coming. I'm enjoying myself.
Well, do you think that the physical dimension, do you think that there is physicality? I mean, ultimately, I'm asking you a serious question in that. I know that this appears to be dualistic and non-dualistic, but I contend when people say illusion, I don't think that they truly understand the extent of what that can mean. Could you talk about the extent of the illusion of space and time, the extent of the illusion of physicality? Is there a physical body with a brain?
No.
I love it. So
it seems to be, what seems to be to those that it seems to be. So what I'm saying is this table seems to be solid to this that seems to be solid. That's my perception. But I there's also a sense of this and the table being the same appearance. So it's it's the real and the unreal,
Yes.
It seems, I guess that's the duality, is the real and the other. It seems this both seem to be true and not true at the same time. But there's nothing, I should have said at the top, that nothing I say is the truth. It's all concepts. Nothing I can possibly say is the truth. It's all conceptual. And so really, I can't, I can't give you like a PhD sort of answer on any of these questions. I barely made it out of high school. Do you know what I mean? So all I can say is what seems to be here. Mm-hmm. You ever hear, a non-duality speaker, sometimes the questioner will get a little insistent and say, but this and that. It's like, well, that's what's happening there. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what that means. This is what's happening here. I'm not saying it's the truth. Mm-hmm. It's just what seems to be happening here. And here is not even a thing. It's just there seems to be a here and there seems to be a there.
Well, could you, is it possible to describe this moment with a million words?
In what way?
In any way possible.
You mean in the possible, like I'm sitting here with Howard talking about describing this moment?
Yeah. Well, what I'm alluding to is it's kind of the paradox of the negation of
you have to name everything that's happening. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like literally, well, describing everything in the moment. Yeah,
everything that's going on.
Yeah.
No, because I don't know everything that's going on. I can't know. I think there's no objective reality. There's no. We know what we see is not real. That's just, those are just facts.
The interesting
I don't even think that's up for argument, is it?
No. Well, for me, it gets more interesting when discussing the lack of dimension, or even its negation, the lack of dimension, because even to talk about the lack of dimension is dimensional thinking, and that is, and that's exactly the opposite of what we're saying exists. Or thinking does not exist in a dimension; it exists as the appearance of dimensional thinking. It just becomes impossible to talk about. So you can't even negate something. Like if I were to ask you, what is life? Something as simple as that can never be answered, right? I mean, what would you say if I asked you what is life?
I would say that this is life. This is life. This is it. This is this appearance of aliveness. This is the appearance of two people interacting. This is the appearance of something that's alive and aware and present and conscious. You know what I mean? Like, that's life to me is kind of they say consciousness at rest, consciousness, as if there's these two states, but manifested consciousness. I don't, it just seems this is the I am appearing as I am Walter. I am Howard,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's life. Life is the apparent existence of things.
Can you talk about, I don't know if you have one, I might be presuming, but can you talk about some of your favorite teachers, authors, poets, influences, individuals that might have had some effect on the Walter character as far as non-duality is concerned?
Well, like I was saying, Floyd Henderson started me off on this whole pathless path by doing sort of the neti style, which is the negation you're saying. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I had never heard that. And when somebody hears this for the first time, it's like, whoa, at least for me. Yeah. So it's like, what do you mean I'm not? Oh, like, I don't know. I just really was, I guess you call it, I identified with this physical appearance and everything else. So him, and then Stephen Wingate, I met sort of after that. And, it was sort of a teacher at first. Well, I guess he was, he had meetings, let's say, and I was attending his meetings. And then we just became friends, really, and just like hang out on a regular basis. And yeah, we talk about this stuff, and he's gonna be starting up a meeting soon.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, in the Cambridge area, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
So if anyone listening to this lives around there, look him up, and you can check it out. Chances are I'll be there too.
What do you think? What do you think in terms of? I mean, there are some people that. I mean, I still get people that want me to meet their gurus and stuff like that. What do you think of the whole guru aspect of non-duality?
I like Nisargadatta Maharaj. I mean, is he a guru? I mean, it's not my guru. I don't have a guru. He would, he would tell you to worship your inner guru. which is like what I was saying, an inner resource, which is, you know, kind of looking into the what's looking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can sort of recognize what's recognizing, if you can sort of see what's seeing, you know, then I don't know. I think I got off track there, but you asked me about gurus. So I think I don't have a guru, but I do enjoy some of those teachers. I guess the classic guys. Is that what you mean, or am
Sure.
I?
What do you feel about? How do you feel about Zen, Buddhism, stuff like that?
Oh, I love some of that stuff. Some of my favorite things. You know, what's his name? Basho.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring comes and the grass grows by itself or something like that.
Yeah.
Sitting quietly doing nothing.
Mm.
Spring comes and the grass grows.
Mm.
I don't know if there's a by itself after that, but the point is, it's like everything is happening to no one, by no one. So the grass grows by its, you know, it just, this is just and I feel like I'm like that grass.
Yeah.
You know, Walter talks, the grass grows, the dog barks, the bird chirps.
Yeah. There's a Walter and there's a river, but Walter can never step in the same river twice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. How long have you been doing your YouTube talks?
I think it's only been like 4 months or so, 4 or 5 months. Yeah, so you know, I hadn't really considered talking on YouTube about this stuff, or teaching or speaking or anything like that. But then Emerson sort of saw some of my comments on Facebook, I guess, and asked me to do an interview on the Nothing FM. So I did it, and then I don't know, it sort of sparked something. I was like, maybe I'll give this a shot. I think you and I had similar experiences in some way.
Yeah.
And then I just thought the easiest way is just to record myself doing, you know, speaking for like 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, maybe sometimes, you know, I don't usually go that long. And then I just upload it to YouTube. And I was taking some questions, but I don't know. I don't know where this is going, if it's going anywhere. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have no intention. I really don't. You know, obviously I enjoy talking about it. I think like hanging out with you on Mondays and hanging out with my friend Steven, like that sort of fills that, you know, desire to discuss this and so, and the videos, you know, that's it. Like, I don't feel like I need much more than that. I don't actually want like a lot of, to attract a lot of attention to myself, to put it that way. I just like I like the interactions.
Yeah.
And I enjoy talking to you. It's fun for me.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm grateful for it. I really do. You know, the Monday thing, you really helped me out there, just being around, because I don't know, we just have great conversations and other people come and go. you're great with the other guests, and you kind of help keep the flow going. As far as you're just a really easy guy to talk to, a really easy friend to have. And it seems like you're actually interested in what the other people have to say rather than eager to talk over them. And that's something that it's not as common as people well know. Most people just want to talk over each other, and it seems like to me that you give the respect. You really give people respect and room to answer questions and stuff. I think you're just a really a great friend to have and a great guest to have at the meeting, and I'm grateful for you, man.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful for you. I mean, you're the perfect host for the Bedside Manor, because you do have the ability to keep things moving as well, and sort of, and then when you see new people come in, you can kind of switch over and sort of invite them in and keep, you know what I mean, like you're a good facilitator.
I think in the
You're a
restaurant
good
business
host.
we used to call that expediting in the kitchen. The expediter.
Yes.
Try to keep it moving. A good
Working
expediter
the
can
tickets.
save a good expediter can save a rush. But I messed up last week.
Pacing.
Yeah, I messed up last week. I was in the middle of this thing, and Sarah had stopped by, and I hadn't talked to her ever. She finally stopped by, and we were talking, and I missed someone that came in the room, and I was trying to finish this thought and get to her, and I missed her, and I was like, dang it. But yeah, I do try to be. I try to, Thanks for mentioning that. I do try to keep everybody included and in the conversation.
Well, I find it also. I'll say a couple things about that. If you're not attached to your viewpoint, which I'm not, like I could care less, It's just a game. Like, I mean, but I don't feel like I have anything to defend or debate or so, and also, like you asked me about Course in Miracles, for example, like they have beautiful stuff, like this whole idea about forgiveness, for example, that the concept is to forgive them for what they did not do. Mm-hmm. It's like we would say there is no doer.
Yeah. Yes.
So who are you, you know what I mean? But in a sense, you could even look at, well, there's no one being upset and there's no one to be upset about, or there's angry with. There's no one being angry. There's no one. That's why there's no cause and effect. So, but if you dial it back to forgiveness, it's like, wow, that's a pretty interesting way to look at that. I don't know. So what I'm saying is, wherever the person's coming from, if it's more of a Zhou Chen, like that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is an appearance on this basic space of awareness.
Well, for example, we were talking about the other day at the meeting, does this mean anything? My question, is always, it to the character of Howard, I saw the shift as, pardon the expression, but illuminating in many ways. I mean, it just you lose any importance of the self, but the story continues, and it just becomes just a lighter kind of sense experience or being or however paradoxically you want to say that. But like with people like Emerson and yourself and and Rajiv and Sarah and all the beautiful people that I've talked to and known and over these years, and it just seems that forgiveness happens. It's not so much that you're forgiving or that you are more gracious or grateful. It's not that. It's that everything is that way. It just happens. I mean, people are kind to each other simply because that happens. But it's not a prerequisite. Also, anything can happen, and there's no, and that's the beauty, the freedom of it. I think a lot of times, it's not that something is good or bad. It's that there seems to be a peace that moves beyond that assumption of good and evil that the seeker or the individual on the level of mind might have to commonsensically, come to grips with. There must be a good and an evil. And what we're talking about is beyond those stories, beyond those appearances. And that can be brutal to the individual. It's impossible for that person. What do you mean there, there doesn't need to be any justice or punishment and things of that nature,
But who says there doesn't need to be any justice or punishment?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. It's not necessarily the job of, it's not necessarily someone's responsibility to dish it out. It's not my responsibility to make sure the guy that just did these evil things gets punished. It's not necessarily that I want to hang out with people that do evil things. I don't. But it's not necessarily up to me to judge what they're doing, even if they're doing it to me. Simply because it's not the individual doing it. It's the expression of totality and the fear of that possibility coming up in the individual, the fear of, the touching of the stove and the suffering of the individual character in the story, physical pain, sensations of that nature. It's paradoxical and kind of beyond that. Although I would like to say that it's not that I wouldn't stop somebody that was running around with a meat cleaver. If I could, I would. But I don't necessarily find it to be my within my purview to judge them. Simply because I don't think it's a them that's doing it, and it's not a me that would be stopping it. It's just that appearance happening. And though judgment can very well rain down on somebody that goes around running amok with a meat cleaver, obviously, you can, people will stop them. And if I had to, I would, but I wouldn't necessarily find it my responsibility to judge, turn them over to the village and let them do their work, whatever. As long as I stop them from doing that negative thing as it appears in the moment. What I'm saying is it's not necessarily, I could see why, say, monks don't try to attach to either right or wrong, because they're seeing beyond that expression. They don't judge the people that jail them or kill them for believing the things that they do. And it's much easier to have that experience with somebody that's hurting me personally, my character. But to watch somebody hurt somebody else is something that obviously I would want to try to stop. But we were talking about
I'll just say something about that. One example is like the deer, and this is one Floyd would use, a deer in the woods, because I think he lived in or lives in a very wooded area, and there's a lot of deer around. So if he walks out there and the deer hears him and runs a little ways away, and then it goes back to chewing on grass or whatever they do, just being, they call it the natural state, just it's nothing gearing, but it's also, it doesn't have this extra layer of should and shouldn'ts.
And within that freedom.
So there's no one saying, there's no voice in the deer's head saying I shouldn't run away when I hear a noise. It's just a natural, spontaneous reaction. And it's, and I think in a lot of ways, the seeing of what we're discussing brings one more and more to that state. It's a stateless state. In other words, living naturally. Nisarga yoga. That's Nisargadatta Maharaj. Do you see what I'm saying? Not living supernaturally with this extra layer of, I need to, be, do, and have all X, Y, and Z. Like, it's just like whatever's happening, man. It's like an acceptance without an acceptor. You want to stop a guy from causing harm? Let's say someone's about to cause harm. This surge of energy is going to come up, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something about it, or I'm not. But there's no, you know what I mean? This actions happen, deeds are done, but there's no individual doer thereof.
Right.
This is all just a play in consciousness.
Yeah. The joke being, really kind of the dark humor of it is that, there's no judgment for from any side. Like, that you can come up with all kinds of ethical problems for the individual, in which you find yourself paradoxically guilty no matter what, or judgmental no matter what. And it's funny because you can't escape either. You can't escape being wrong or right, or guilty or judgmental. And it's kind of both happening constantly. It's just this constant state of what if. And yeah, and that's part of just this as well, I guess. It's the beauty of that freedom or lack of responsibility for what appears in the moment, generally speaking, creates a feeling of lightness. And that's how it is for me. But it is the very lack of responsibility for the actions that appear in the moment that make that lightness, brighten.
Oh. Sorry, I just relocated. Try to get a little more. There we go.
Do you use any methods or techniques that help the character of Walter?
Methods or techniques? I mean, I certainly have. I'm not actively employing any methods or techniques at the moment. What I'm saying is I have meditated in the past. I have well, let's just say knowing that my perspective, you know, I've actively tried to change my perspective on things, and you know, basic. I think that the character in the story, like you said, can be a what they call like a work in progress. You know, it's like I feel like I'm never. It's funny with the seeking stuff because on one end it's like the seeking is over. I don't think there's any levels or places to get to spiritually or higher states of consciousness or anything like that that I'm looking for. But you know, if I observe my behavior and I think it could be improved or something, I might use a method or a technique. Or there's something in my life that I want to change somehow. Or, so, you know, I don't just sit in the silence in the cave. You know, I mean, I don't know. I just think of self-improvement in a way when you say that, methods and techniques. Because you know, I like to get do better at my job and things like that. You know, like I can always learn more. I try to keep an open mind, and you know, I remain teachable in a lot of ways. You know, the only way I guess I don't is like, well, like I said, I don't think I'm gonna like sign up for anything that's advanced, like levels of realization or something like that. Yeah, and I pretty much can't see myself like signing up for anything really. I mean, what I mean is more or less, I guess I'm trying to say that I'm like perfectly imperfect, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, you know, I don't meditate, but I did for a while, you know, and I think relaxation techniques are good, you know, just to be have a calmer state, you know. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's kind of like you know, probably like we were talking in our tequila meeting. We talk a lot about techniques and things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the different playgrounds.
Well, I'll keep talking, but I'm going to get some more water. So, yeah. So, for example, that reminds me of. So, I think Max is saying a lot about thought, you know, and how you can basically. I don't know what he says about it, but maybe you can ask him more in his next interview. But like I was saying about changing your perspective, you know, it's like I was saying about a shift in identity, you know.
Yeah.
Howard. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
I'm
can't see.
listening.
I didn't know if you were still there. So if you now somebody can say, and this is where that term level of confusion comes in. Somebody can say, well, there is no you to change your shift your identity, right? I'd like
Right.
to hear the radical non-duality people who I love, by the way. But you know, who's going to do that? And you know, there's no free will and all this. But it's like, well, do you tie your shoes? I mean, apparently there's someone that bends down and ties their shoes,
Right.
or there's someone that in this appearance, in this story that goes to the bathroom, there is an apparent doing of things. There's apparent happenings. So could a person apparently change the way they think about things, change the way they think about themselves, change their opinion of themselves or someone else or a situation?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. So, if that's a technique to imagine the best for yourself and for those around you, then it's a technique. But it's, you know, it's so I have a technique for wiping my ass, you know.
I was thinking
What
more
difference does it
on the
make?
lines of. I was thinking more on the lines of feeling a slip from the individual observing other. The slip of the slip from this, so to speak. The traditional understanding of the individual in time and space relative to other objects. Sometimes, you know, there are these moments when I can feel the character dissipate, and it can be terrifying. And what appears to happen is a snap back. You know, the character wants to grab a hold of something and come back to the duality in which it's comfortable in. So it's this, I call it the slip, and it could be a slip from sanity in a way, because it does feel like you're losing your mind. And I've had some people say no, they never feel that, and other people say yes, they do. And you know, it's part of my story in that brushes with you know, the unexplainable can appear randomly and without any notice whatsoever. But then there are also times when I like to think about things in terms of relativity that kind of in a paradoxical way kind of get me there, and that in insofar as seeing this immediate experience is not relative to another position, and feeling that lack of relevance or that lack of relativity being no longer relative, the self loses all, you know, determination of a place or a time or a direction or any kind of subject object in which in a literal sense you lose your edges, and the experience becomes much like uh, within a split second, almost like a water, you know, a mushy kind of uh, medium to a not even nothing. And as you watch as you watch the story of the individual and other, it, you know, just completely obliterate, you know, just lose any sense of of separation. I mean, you can slip into this. Lao Tzu called it darkness within darkness. And that's, he called it, I think, the beginning of all wisdom. And for the individual, I think maybe so. In the same way that Kundalini or yoga might help the character in the story, some kind of method or something like that. At the same time, I can ponder sourcelessness and the lack of relativity and have it create this expansive story within the character of Howard, that Howard literally loses his sense of objective realism, objective truth, and even the idea of illusion is much like trying to negate dimension, in that even in the way that someone tries to negate time and space, they are in a way thinking dimensionally. And so you can't even negate what appears or what is obviously just an appearance without being more of that appearance. And so this story of a lack of or this slipping into a lack of that appearance can occur in a paradoxical kind of framework. In no way am I saying anything true, and in no way am I saying that this is at all relevant to anyone as it appears in this separation of me talking to others, but it does appear beneficial in many ways to me, and it's very difficult to articulate that. Obviously a method and a technique is paradoxical at best, and even the negation of such things is also is also just this. But if we're going to be honest, I have that slip on occasion, and I can use certain ways to get there. It's not necessarily easy. I'm a big. I think that people a lot of times pick up speaking because of the lack of tether to the character of the individual. I mean, you could literally lose your mind in a sense of believing what you're actually saying. I mean, a lot of people will say it and not really believe what they're saying, but to actually put into some kind of actuality as the appearance of this reality is occurring, you can actually blend into the appearance of all things and become no thing within that character story. And whether or not that makes sense to anybody or not is irrelevant. It's just like the Enlightenment story or anything like that. Any story of cause and effect or succession of events is impossible to gird up against, not even nothing, just to talk about the lack of dimension being dimensional. So to talk of a technique to get to a place where there is no cause and effect is, contradictory at best. But at the same time, not completely inaccurate as far as the character's practicality, the practicality of self in this here and now does have this story of certain ways in which to leave what is commonly referred to as mind, I should say. The whole story of a physical brain and time and space loses any kind of relevance, because the conditioning of the individual appears to the whole story of a Walter, the whole story of a Howard, the whole idea, the notion that two of us are separate and exchanging intellects loses any credibility whatsoever. And in that paradoxical understanding, that there is no separation here, and there are no two people exchanging intellects. Intellects just appears to happen. And in that understanding, the entire notion of meaning or purpose or reason dissipates into this, for lack of a better phrase, something beyond duality. It's just it's beyond the notion of a cause or effect, or a positive and a negative. It's beyond right or wrong, or good or bad, and just beyond subject object. And I think that the switch, as it appears within the character, does not happen in actuality, but the character himself. I mean, I think some people have many switches throughout their character's life. Other people, just the switch never ends. There's just different aspects of the switch, and the switch being paradoxically impossible to be any other way, or everything appears exactly as it is, and it cannot be any other way. Yet it is not as it appears, as is not is. And so it is and it isn't, just beyond the capability to articulate. And so any kind of words are similar to a technique or a method. It is very similar to the body trying to stretch yoga or meditate or anything like that. Words are very much like a technique, because they're not, so a speaker to say that there is no technique, it's not entirely accurate to say that. I mean, at least for this character, it just as a Q&A is not entirely accurate to say what is happening here, or an interview,
Well,
obviously.
There's no method to get from here to here.
Yes.
Like, I get that.
Right.
It's because it's only descriptive. So what am I doing when I go on a riff? Is I'm describing something. I'm pointing to something. I'm suggesting a possibility for your consideration, for your listening pleasure. But it's not a prescription. It's not a method. So non-duality is not a method. At least that's the way it feels when I talk about it. I don't think I'm ever, I might say you could consider what I'm saying,
Mhm.
You could, is that a method to maybe contemplate some ideas?
Mhm.
Maybe,
What I'm suggesting is that it is analogous to speaking. I'm just suggesting it. It just kind of came to me, but there are no words, yet we appear to be speaking. There are no methods and techniques, yet many people use methods and techniques and seem to get somewhere with it. And all of that is the appearance of the individual, I understand. And ultimately, there is no method or technique within the, but also there is no Q&A here now. I mean, there is no interview in that traditional sense. It appears that two people are speaking and talking, but
right.
That is the story of two people speaking and talking, expresses the totality of existence.
But it's the same way when if I were to say, consider the fact that you could, see things from a different
well, like this. Let's look at it like this. The two of us are okay. We're being expressed as a totality of existence relative to no position. All right. There's no other point outside of this immediate experience. Right. So in that way, the two of us are kind of like representations of wind in that, say, in terms of the two of us speaking, say we're two storms. Okay, you're a hurricane in St. Louis. I'm a hurricane in Oklahoma. All right, you're a hurricane Walter, and I'm Hurricane Howard. Okay, we do all kinds of damage around. We talk our game, we do our things, and we devastate our cities. We even have everybody sees it as two separate storms, but in fact, it's just wind. All right, but wind coming from nowhere and going to nothing, and that's those stories of wind commingling, or even being separate in the first place, is as arbitrary as the story of the two of us actually speaking as separate individuals in this moment, in this here and now. That is the depiction of the characters of us, but there is no point in which that we could say that story is relative at all, or means anything, or means what it appears to be showing. So in this way, the notion that there are two individuals experiencing time and space and communicating in this way is illusory, simply because we could point to the lack of knowledge of another point in space and time in which to be relative. We could talk about the logic involved with it. We could talk about the appearance of it, and what is it UG would call it, or the conditioning. The conditioning of the individual has to lose that condition that there was a beginning to the universe. There's evolution, or there's a God, and that God is the doer. The God is the ultimate doer. The evolution is the cause for what appears to be this effect, and we are culminated from this billions of light years of space and time here, and now we end up here and now. To lose that conditioning from the individual, that no, you don't believe, I guess UG or many speakers would say, don't believe that conditioning. Stop believing that there's anything beyond the immediate experience. And it's an unbelieving or an unlearning of that story. And so within that paradigm, and to say that a lack of a dimension is in fact dimensional, to say that a lack of that condition is conditional thinking. It's not even, to say a method or a technique is any more or less valid than words themselves is kind of a misnomer, is what I'm pointing to. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's, if we're going to go that direction, if we're going to say that there is no technique or method that can be apparently helpful to the individual, then we might as well just never speak. I mean, it just doesn't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what's the point of that entire, and to say that is just happening, wouldn't technique and method just happen as well? I mean, isn't it the same?
I hope that was clear through, I mean, you've been interviewing me for an hour and 44 minutes, and I think over the course of that time, I've obviously been involved in different things, and I think, like we say, for the character in the story of Walter, I found it helpful.
Yes.
To move along this pathless path,
Yeah.
There was an apparent path, and somehow I ended up sitting here talking to you, and And I really, it could have gone in so many different directions. And it's the love of being. I don't know. I feel grateful for this,
I do too.
for everything. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't know
Yeah.
how, I don't know how, one thing leads to another, and this apparent cause and effect, and it's
Well,
amazing.
well, let's do that. Well,
but
let's.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I think I lost my train of thought a little bit, but I was just
I
going to
well, I
say,
just did too. I hate it when
I
that
think
happens.
where I was coming from was, we were talking about practices and methods and things like that, and paths. I think where I got off track was talking. I got lost on the path. I was talking. I was saying there was an apparent path, and I loved. I loved it. I mean, I don't consider any of it a waste of time or anything like that. Um, I met a lot of wonderful people along the way. Um, I'm still meeting wonderful people. So I don't, you can negate it and say, well, there was no I. There never was an I. There never was a me. I, you know, I didn't have to arrive anywhere. I mean, I don't feel like I arrived anywhere, Howard. I just feel like there's this apparent life where I'm kind of moving along, and almost like being lived. And we have this. It's back to like that term I use, divine hypnosis. You have this apparent free will. You're making decisions. You know, it's not real, but it is, and it's not, and you take it to be real, but somehow behind that, you're not taking it to be real, but there is no you to take it to be real. But it's all this big mess. You know what I mean? It's a walking contradiction.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, unless I just wanted to sit here and be like nothing, 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 and just negate everything and not have a conversation and make it impossible for you to talk to me, uh, and not use personal pronouns.
Right.
I'm not going to say me, myself, or I, or you, or they. There's nothing happening. It is a conversation killer. So we can. I don't mind using language and expressions that, whatever. It's like there's this apparent thing happening, and it can be beautiful, it can be painful, it can be sad. It's a story. That's why it's a story. It would be a boring story. If it was a flat line, that's not much of a life. You gotta
Unless you
have.
want, yeah, yeah. That's where me and Zen parted ways. That and yeah, the sitting and I don't see the difference between the silence and the noise personally, or the action but I do understand. Uh, I have no qualms against it. It's just that I don't see I don't see it that way. I think the story itself just plays. It's kind of odd. The character of me just lets the music play it. You know what I'm saying? The music
Yeah.
plays the band, so to speak. And there's something about the rigid I don't know, scheduling of of like the Zen traditions, that is a little too much for me. You know, I mean, it's too much regiment, too much, you know, too much in the way of, you know, you got to be at a certain place at a certain time to sit and think about timelessness and spacelessness, but not so much that, you know, cause and effect does not still apply, you know. And if you think in terms of beyond cause and effect, the Zen master will beat you with a stick to show you the failure of your, or the how should I say that, the just the way, you know, just the folly of your way. Zen, I think.
Don't you think we'll get that when we're dead?
Well, that's a loaded question. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I'll let you. Yeah, let's. How about that?
You flipped it back at me.
Well, I mean, you know, I can tell you what I think, but you know, it's not too good. You know, that's a tough one. It's a tough one to articulate there. Do you think that we are alive now?
No, but what I'm saying is, when this body is in the ground, let's say,
Yeah.
I think we'll have that that state that they're looking for. I think what I'm saying is, it's sort of like they say it's you know, like deep sleep, basically. So essentially nothing, you know. I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything. I was more of a joke. I was just saying, like, if you want a sort of a non-existent, if you're looking for a non-existent state, like I don't exist, nothing's like, you know, I'm a robot. I'm a meat robot.
Well,
It's
you know,
like, I mean, you can have that for, you know, for all of eternity, but you know, you don't have this state now. I know, it's I was just joking, more or less.
no, it's a beautiful question. It's difficult to articulate. I think that
I don't think you're alive now. I don't think you were born. I don't think you're gonna die. I don't think, you know, there is no you.
yes. And the funny thing about it is, just to I mean, if you want to think in terms of time and space, if you want to think in terms of an individual in separation, dimensionality, then think about it in those in the terms of time beyond what appears to be your existence. If you think that you were born and this, you know, the universe existed, you know, before this story began of a self, and you know, time and space is real. We're talking about the depth of dimension that a human has no capacity to fathom. I mean, you cannot think in terms of 1,000,000 years. You can't think in terms of 1,000 years, let alone you know, billions of years, trillions of light years. You know, the entire spectrum of dimensionality is such a brain torker. Even if you want to believe in separation and time and space, you're doing so in such an inconsequential increment of existence. As it appears, things mean something to you in this, or the to the self in this, you know, on this little planet going around the sun in terms of years. The planet, this just Earth, they're saying, has been here for 4.5 billion years. It's just insanity to think in terms of the, you know, 53 years I've been on the planet, you know, to look at it in terms of my life actually meaning something in respect to the rest of dimensionality.
But that's like that line I said, you know, we give everything all the meaning it has. It has relative meaning.
Relative meaning to
the apparent individual.
To the apparent individual. So relative to a lack of foundation for self. So yeah, I agree. It's just that the self is.
That's why I also talk about, like the perspective and the meaning we give things, and what else can I say? Imagination. But that is also helpful. So you can say it's relatively helpful to the apparent individual. You know,
right.
in so.
It's just it's funny because people will say, it's non-duality, like uncompromising non-duality or radical non-duality is so empty, and it's so it's just unfulfilling or whatever. And I think it's amazing because of just the time scales and size dimensionality that we have to deal with just on what appears to be the story. Like, if you want to believe that story, how is it that you can come to the conclusion that you are relevant in the big scheme of things? The only beautiful aspect of that, paradoxically speaking, is that from the moment.
Well, can I just add something to that?
Sure.
It's like Tony Parsons says, he likes to starve the seeker, or he wouldn't say he likes to, but he says the message starves the seeker.
Yes.
It's sort of designed that way, because there's nothing on offer.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally nothing on offer. I mean, that's why it's not a teaching. And because it's not that. I said this before, but there's not anything you can do. That's not the message. The message is there is no you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a huge distinction.
Yeah, I would.
The you that you think you are can apparently do things.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is I got to this point where even if you want to believe the story of separation, even as a seeker, to look in terms of what's out there, I still come to the same conclusion that there is no you. I mean, it doesn't, either way you look at it, it seems rather arrogant to come up with a story that makes the individual relative, although paradoxically, it is necessarily so that you would exist in this here and now if the story of separation is accurate, insofar as the forces of nature splitting, gravity splitting from the strong and weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force. The moment that happened, it was predetermined that you would exist here and now. So, as Tony Parsons would say, or not Tony Parsons, excuse me, Alan Watts would say, in that frame of reference, you are the Big Bang banging, because essentially, that is the case. But I'm just throwing different ways to look at it, in that even if you want to believe in what appears to be what appears to be a succession of events in time and space as an individual, observing others. If you want to go that route, follow it to its, follow it to its conclusion. follow it to that logical end if you think that it has a source, or if you think that there is a cause and effect mechanism for this, then follow that all the way to the end. And it cannot, it just cannot be any other way. And still you end up with no free will. You still don't end up with an individual self that is making decisions. It just doesn't, there's no way to that end. And it's a beautiful, I guess, culmination in what I mean by language and technique and method along this line. I don't know why I got on this tangent, but just for the sake of presenting the conversation, there is no other way to look at it than to say that there is and there is not a method, or there is and there is not words or language. The individual saying one thing or another has no bearing on what is. So to negate it is just as ridiculous as to proclaim it to be true. And it's fascinating to me. It's an entirely different language. You can't, there's no yes or no. No, it's both yes and no. Everything is yes and no. And then wrapped up in something completely different that's not a thing,
Mm.
So in that lies the premise, maybe, of what I'm saying, that even radical non-duality, has, it literally is, birds chirping in trees. It's literally the inability to affirm or deny anything at all. It is basically making that claim that there can be no claim made.
I think it's as close to not having any concepts, or not presenting any kind of path or steps or any of that stuff, and just saying it's what is, it's what's apparently happening, just this, and it's a beautiful message. I love it. I mean, should somebody go to it, I'll just name your problem du jour. I don't know, it's not a solution to any problem,
Mm-hmm. Why don't you let's close on that one. Let's close on that one. Close on it's not a solution. See, what can you tell me about?
Which is funny because there's a chapter in the big book, there is a solution. But there is, I mean, I'm being very repetitive, but I mean, it's just, again, for, do you want this, if you can say, let's say, quit drinking, for example, if you are an alcoholic.
The first time I drank was...
It's a good idea, to go to AA and do the steps and etc. Or there are other ways. That's not the only way. I mean, sometimes people just sort of, they call it grace, an unmerited gift. You just get struck sober. And
I'll tell you what, the first time I drank in 15, 16 years was a couple of weeks ago at the Tequila Thursday, was it? And then
First
last
time
Sunday,
in a long time? First time, long
16
time?
years.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
16 years. Yeah, something like that.
Was
And,
that intentional, that 16
it
years?
just
or
happened
was
that
it
way.
just-
I one day
Yeah.
just didn't. One day I picked up a beer, man. I was gonna watch a ball game with my friends, and I was drink. I used to drink this German beer called Grolsch, and it just did. It was funky. It was like bad. So I popped it and then I gave it to my friend. My friend was like, "No, there's nothing wrong with that." I popped another one and drank it. I said, "Man, there's something wrong with this beer." And he said, took a drink. He's like, "Nothing's wrong with that." I said, "Man, you're crazy." I popped another one and it was just as bitter. And I tried to drink a little bit of liquor just to see how it would taste. And I had lost my flavor for alcohol. And I drank once after my surgery 6 years ago. I didn't have any painkillers or anything, and none of the doctors would listen to me. You know, they crippled. They told me I'd be back to work Monday, but I haven't walked since, and they weren't listening to what I'm saying.
Hold on one second. My headphones are gonna die here. Well, just throw it on speaker for a second. There we go.
So yeah, like 5 years ago, after the first 5 or 6 years ago after that surgery, I drank some tequila. But yeah, that was the only. Yeah, I think in the last 16 years, it's like the only time I drank. I tried to drink one of those airline bottles of vodka once, and I got a little sip, and I just couldn't take. I tried to drink a beer once, and it just didn't take. But last Tequila Thursday, they tasted pretty good. I took Giselle's advice and just kind of a little lemonade, a little tequila, and they went down well. And then last Sunday, I noticed they went down a little better.
Wow.
The first time I drank, I got like this much out of the bottle, and then the next time I drank, I got like that much out of the bottle. I was like, okay, these are starting to go down too good, too easy.
Yeah,
but
I don't think I'm going to be going too nuts on those anymore.
I thought it was great.
Oh, it was fun, but I mean,
yeah,
you don't have to go crazy. Just enjoy. Like, I think I was just having fun, and like, it just all was.
Oh, I think you were fine. I
all
think
just
everybody
happening,
was
and just.
I think you were my friend, and you had a buzz on, and everything was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good time. But I'm just saying, next time, just for my, let's say the way I'll feel in the morning, for the sake of, of my headache.
On that note, man,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this is probably about 2 hours. I think we should save some for the next one. That way,
all right. That's a good idea.
It's the one complaint I'm getting from people that are actually watching the links. They're saying, well, you don't have to say everything in one go. You make them go, do an hour, maybe 2 hours.
I should, I was sort of running out of steam, but I should have said something. But I just enjoy listening sometimes too. And so I just, I'm just chilling out. But I do think I probably said everything I could possibly say about non-duality in the past 2 hours. So if anyone watches me in the future, it's just going to be the same. I'll have nothing new to add. I'm sure. No, that's probably not true. Like I said, we're walking contradictions. I might be saying a completely different thing in 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Who knows? I might not even be here. Well,
where is here and who are you?
Here on the YouTubes. I might have gone into seclusion, become a hermit or something.
I had to give you some radical non-duality guff. just at the end.
Yeah, no,
it's tradition.
That's what Emerson does when we talk, and I love it. You know, like, well, whatever. I could keep talking, but we'll talk in your Bedside Manor chat group, whatever it's called.
Monday morning, 11 to 3.
I'm gonna be late though, okay? Because I have an appointment, but I'll be checking in.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
If you go to 3, that gives me plenty of time. So
oh yeah,
I might be a late arrival.
Thanks, Walter, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
Well, I enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't having fun.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you Monday, man.
All right. Check you later.
Later, brother. Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.